all that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From ashes a fire shall be woken. A light from the shadow shall spring. Renewed shall be the blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be king. This run is about the Night Sword, not Anduril, the Flame of the West. But Anduril is a sword, and the Night Sword is a sword, so the two are not entirely dissimilar. Actually, the fact that they're both swords is the only thing that they do have in common. But whatever, it's a cool poem. For this run, I will be exclusively using the Night Sword, which I will call the Blade of the Weeb from here on out for reasons that I would assume to be obvious. The Blade of the Weeb is a pretty solid weapon, but there's not a whole lot of depth to it. It slashes to attack and can also retaliate every 0.6 seconds when the player is hit. Furthermore, it has a 1% chance to drop a healing heart when it slays a foe, providing a small amount of sustain. The evolution of this weapon basically just buffs it without making any inherent changes. It attacks faster and steals life better. The only notable change that it makes are as follows. Apparently it drains a small amount of health to use, but this is offset by the healing provides, and I didn't even notice it while I was playing. Every so often it will also use a finisher move and create a glowing red slash on the screen that damages enemies. As far as other constraints for this run, the only other one is that I'm not allowed to use revives because I feel like revives are a little bit cheating and will often trivialize a run. But other than weapons and revives, everything else is allowed. I'm playing on the Milk Factory for no other reason than it seems to be an area that players dislike, and I'm a bit of a contrarian. For my first Arcana, I get Beginning, which seems fitting, offering me +3 amount, meaning that I'll have extra swords. I don't have another weapon besides the Blade of the Weeb, and I feel like this Arcana will offset that limitation a bit. The cooldown book will serve to decrease my cooldown, again, offsetting the lack of other weapons. The Stone Mask is almost exclusively there to allow me to upgrade the Blade of the Weeb. Picking up the Duplicator adds to the ever-growing amount of swords that my attacks use. I have a decently specific list of items that I want to pick up, and none of these are on that list. I probably should just banish one, but I just skip them and move on. The lack of a real offensive sweep is kind of irksome early in the run. The Blade of the Weeb is putting in a decent amount of work, but it's only making a dent in the horde of enemies that are pursuing me. I wish I could say that this gets better later, and I guess it does to some degree, but only after the sword is evolved. Small comfort in this early portion of the run. Because of the aforementioned lackluster everything, I'll be corner cucking a lot in this run. Not so much corner cucking, I guess, but like fringe cucking? I'll be running away a lot is what I'm trying to say. My cuckoldry on full display, I eventually get another level. I use it to get the armor. Its function seems self-explanatory, but I'll explain regardless. I am quite squishy throughout the entirety of this run, and I grab this item in the hopes of becoming less so. This chest provides the final upgrade to my duplicator. The bonus projectiles are nice, but I'm also just relieved that it will no longer be offered on the upgrade screen and allow me to focus on acquiring the rest of the items I need to flesh out my build. Sick of being offered things I don't want, I do use one of my banishes. Get out of here, you stupid box! The projectiles in this run are kind of annoying. My sustain is basically non-existent, and having to dodge these damaging balls while at half health is pretty annoying. My health is not going in the direction that I would like it to be going, so in a display of cowardice, I begin fringe cucking once again. While the Blade of the Weeb does provide a small amount of sustain, it really doesn't get going until it's evolved. I would be really thankful for a red heart or some floor chickens to aid me in my efforts to not die. No sooner spoken than granted. The heart will honestly not do very much to stave off my impending death, but any port in a storm, I suppose. When I said it wouldn't do very much, I meant it. My health total continues to plummet, and I continue to flee. I'm really just looking for anything that'll make me not die. This 5-item chest is my salvation. Not only does it grant me a couple extra hearts and some armor, but it also evolves the Blade of the Weeb. My new Weeb sword provides 10 times the sustain of its predecessor, and I am infinitely grateful given my laughably low life total. As my upgraded sword begins to replenish my life, I fill out my last slot. The spinach is as good as anything, and the increased damage will allow me to cleave through mobs in the late game with more ease. As much as I have been singing its praises, Weeb Sword 2 is not healing me as quickly as I would like. Luckily, someone left this chicken on the floor. I devour it despite the probable salmonella and get my health to a more comfortable place. I typically don't care about Arcana, but in this run, I do. But alas, there is nothing offered in this suite that is applicable to me, so I skip it and move on with the run. Shortly after skipping the Arcana, I put the final level needed into the spinach. I've got everything upgraded and can now make my way to the 2 surplus items on the floor, the candle and the wings. While we're walking to these items, I feel now is as good a time as any to talk to you about anime. I mean, you clicked on a video with Weeb in the title, so you probably feel some type of way about this medium. My philosophy on the matter is as follows. I'll not discount a work because it's anime, nor will I sing its praises strictly because it's anime. There seem to be a lot of people that won't watch a genuinely good show for fear of being a nerd, a loser, or, dare I say, a weeb. And I feel like this is foolish. An attitude like this will cause one to miss out on so many good stories, all because of some strange notion of high school era social clout. On the flip side, there are true weebs out there who fawn over anything with a senpai or a waifu or whatever, without giving any amount of thought to whether or not the work has any sort of artistic merit, and I think this is just as foolish as the former cohort of individuals. It's not that they're intentionally avoiding things, but they're missing out on so much excellent non-anime media because there are only so many hours in the day, and if you're exclusively watching anime, you simply don't have the time to watch anything else. In summation, if a work is good, it's good regardless of the media through which it's portrayed. And here's the candle. As I said earlier, my attacks are now bulkier. The size increase allows them to hit more enemies, which is pretty nice. That isn't to say that a medium is unimportant in how a work presents itself, but it's not the end-all be-all. Look at all the live-action adaptations of anime. I mean, someone has to, because I certainly haven't. Why in the world would I want to watch a live-action Cowboy Bebop when the original is basically perfection? The animation style of the show serves the story and is beautiful in its own right. How could anyone think that taking away such an honestly integral part of what makes the show great could possibly be a good idea? But then look at Attack on Titan. Come at me in the comments if you want, I guess, but I do not care for this show. It's hard to argue that the animation of this show is not beautiful, but the story is so middling, meandering, and all over the place. While Attack on Titan is undeniably beautiful to look at, watching it feels like a chore. The comparison of these two shows serves to illustrate the point that in any artistic endeavor, all elements need to work together in tandem to create something beautiful. If one thing is great, that's cool, but the great thing needs to complement all of the other elements to make a work worthy of praise. Wings acquired. As one can imagine, these little fellas make me move faster, and if you will kindly look at my health total, you will notice that I'm halfway dead again. With the boost to my movement speed, I can now fringe cuff with greater ease. Watch whatever you want at the end of the day. You are watching this after all, and this video is hardly artistically meritorious. It's your life, and you can do whatever you want, but it just seems that by holding on so tightly to notions of which mediums are acceptable and which mediums are not acceptable, a person will inevitably miss out on so many good things of excellent quality, and that just seems like such a shame to me. With all of my items fully leveled, I can now fully focus on upgrading Weeb Sword 2 via the limit break mechanic. Typically, an item stops leveling once it reaches the max, but with this turned on, I can now level it beyond its typical limits, breaking them, if you will. I feel like in a normal run this would seem a bit busted and trivialize the game to one degree or another, but the Blade of the Weeb is my only weapon, so it seems fair enough given these circumstances. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of this arcana, but it's good enough in this situation. I've been wailing about my low health total for almost the entirety of this run, and doubling the healing will hopefully make me much less prone to do such things. Another benefit is the damage dealt in proportion to the health restored. Weeb Sword 2 is sufficiently limit broken and dealing a respectable amount of damage on its own, but a little more damage never hurt anyone. Except the enemies, I guess. As far as limit break scaling goes, I prioritize buys in the following order. Always get an amount upgrade when it's offered, then area upgrades, then damage upgrades. I don't always abide by the final two priorities, but it seems like a good enough rule of thumb. The run is functionally completed at this point. The combination of Weeb Sword 2 and the unpronounceable arcana are dealing sufficient damage and reasonable sustain. There's not really much left to do but wait. Weeb Sword II is gaining significant amount of levels, however. If only there was a comedic numerical value at which I could aim to cease leveling it. Nice. Funny number achieved, death comes and puts an end to my malarkey. But the deed has been done. The katana run is over, and the blade of the Weeb has been put on full display. See ya, Space Cowboy.